Hello and welcome to another episode of Froch on Fighting with me, Carl the Cobra Froch. Whilst I've got you, don't forget to subscribe. Right, I've had so many questions sent in over YouTube, over social media and email. Keep them coming in, thank you very much. This week I'm going to glam it up a little bit. I'm going to get Rachel in front of the camera. Watch them eyes, you can admire but don't look too long. Rachel, over to you.
Right, hello everyone. With talks of Chris Eubank Jr versus Benn happening in September, are you interested in that fight, or has it lost its spark after Benn's failed drug test and Eubank losing to Liam Smith?
Benn, Chris Eubank Jr will always be a massive fight in my opinion. It's Benn, it's Benn and Eubank. Their old men had great fights together and it captured the public's imagination back then. And it's going to do the same now. I think because Benn's failed that drugs test, it brings more hype and it's more interest around the fight. You know what people like? People love a bit of hype and a bit of controversy, especially in England. We're very fickle though. We can be fickle as fans, but we'll turn up and watch it. Certainly will. I mean, I'll certainly be watching that one when that happens. Chris Eubank Jr losing to Liam Smith, that's a bit of a kick in the stones in terms of the fight being really, really interested, because I think a lot of people are just going to assume that Benn wins this one. Quite conclusively. I don't know what's happening with the Eubank Liam Smith rematch. It's been put off twice. Is that fight even going to happen, or is this fight going to happen before that? We'll wait and see. But to answer your question, the Benn Eubank fight will be big. I think it will be big. It's a shame it probably won't be happening in England. Benn's still yet to go in front of the board and reap the ramifications of the failed drugs test. So that fight's being talked about taking place overseas. Where and when, still don't know, and I would assume the fight's made at 160. There's no way Chris Eubank can get below 160. When he was originally due to fight Benn, it was going to be at 157, 157 pounds. It was evident at 160 that he'd struggled to do the 157 because he was so weak. That's kind of an excuse for Chris Eubank Jr losing to Liam Smith so conclusively. But I'm not really buying into that. I thought Liam Smith was too good for him, too experienced, and he just put in a really good performance, and Chris Eubank was overwhelmed and backed up and smashed to bits early. So I don't know. I think Conor is probably the favourite going into that one. I'm not going to give a prediction, but I think you can tell by what I'm saying that Benn's going to be the favourite in my eyes. But it's still a great fight. Still a fight I want to watch. It's just a shame that Chris Eubank did lose so devastatingly against Liam Smith. But yeah, definitely a watchable fight.
Is Benn now trying to hype somebody else up? Hype up another fight with someone else? I
think Josh Taylor, yeah, I think you're right. Josh Taylor has had a bit of beef from Conor. He's just lost to Teofimo Lopez last week or the week before when I was out there getting my Hall of Fame ring. I watched it on the big screen. I had to get that in again, didn't I? But yeah, unfortunately for Josh, he was kind of just quite conclusively outboxed and well beaten in that fight. So yeah, it's quite an interesting fight, Benn, Josh Taylor. Them two have got a bit of needle with each other. They're giving each other a bit of back and forth. And if it's Josh Taylor just trying to hype a job because obviously it's going to be a decent payday. But I think the interesting one at the minute is Benn, Chris Eubank, probably at 160 pounds. Unfortunately, probably not in Britain. But I'll definitely be tuning in.
Are fans turning on Fury?
Are fans turning on Fury? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, he has been getting a lot of stick lately. He's called out quite a few people. He's not been boxing. The fight with Alexander Usyk never happened. And people are blaming him for kind of priced himself out of that. And then Usyk accepted and then he pulled out and said the fight can't happen anyway. It was only 6 or 7 weeks for that, which was never going to be long enough for Fury to get ready. But I do get the feeling that maybe people are actually giving Fury a little bit of stick. I don't like to see it. He's a great champion. Beat Klitschko in Germany that night. I was there commentating for Sky that night, and then since then he's had the trilogy with Deontay Wilder, the most feared man in boxing, the biggest puncher in the heavyweight division. He jumped in there 3 times, and he done himself proud. I know he's had a couple more fights since he came back, but Fury is the main man in the division. He's the man that nobody thinks that Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, we know what the results are for that. No one thinks that he can get beat. Maybe Alexander Usyk will have the speed and the skill set, but the general consensus is that Fury's just too big for Usyk. So He's the main man. He's the top of the stack. He's the kingpin. The kingpin. That looks like a kingpin ring, doesn't it? Yeah. The Hall of Fame ring. Got it in again. But yeah, I think he is maybe putting himself in the firing line by maybe talking too much. Maybe get him on this channel and I have to put the feelers out, see if I can get him on here, and then ask him a few questions, see what's going off. But at the minute, there's nothing to announce. So people are frustrated with the heavyweight division, really frustrated, because there's nothing really happening. There's been that talk of the straight semi-final in Saudi, involving AJ, Fury, Wilder, and Usyk, but nothing's happened with that. Nothing's materialised, and now we've got Fury talking about maybe fighting Dillian Whyte, and Dillian Whyte saying, "Well, I've not had a contract yet, and there's only 6 or 7 weeks left to go." So it's all getting a bit frustrating, a bit tedious, and very annoying. But yeah, I think Tyson Fury is getting a lot of the stick and the backlash because he's got a lot to say, and people just think he's talking for the sake of talking now, and nothing's going to materialise, which is bad. Don't forget, Tyson Fury is the main man in the division. He's the man that commands the respect. He's the man that's led heavyweight boxing now for years. So don't tune out of him, because let's be honest, put him in with any of the other heavyweights and you pretty much know what the result's going to be. So he deserves respect, but he is annoying people.
Why is it so hard to make fights in the heavyweight division?
Why is it so hard? I think it's difficult to make the big fights in the heavyweight division because there's so much money involved. It's always commanded the most money. If you look back over the years of boxing, there's not many. I mean, the exception to the rule is Floyd Mayweather. He's probably one of the biggest earners, not just of boxing, of all sports. So Floyd Mayweather aside, and Prince Nassim Hamid did really well at featherweight. But them aside, the one-offs, heavyweight division always commands massive money. If you look at Evander Holyfield, probably made 600-700 million. Mike Tyson made more. Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe, all them old heavyweight fighters, not all old, but you know what I mean, that last generation. Heavyweight boxing over the years has always been the dominant and the best paid division in the sport, which whether it's fair or not, actually, everybody wants to see heavyweight boxing because usually you're guaranteed a knockout. People love to see a knockout. And I think because the money that's involved, that's probably the reason, to answer your question, the reason it's so hard to make the fights happen, because nobody wants to get beat. People are always protecting their zeros, their unbeaten record. And secondly, there's so much money involved, it's kind of greed kind of steps in, and people want bigger shares if they're the champion, or if they hold the belt, or if they're mandatory, they're in a position where they're saying, listen, you've got to fight me. So the negotiations break down. And also you've got the promotional divide. You've got Eddie Hearn, who's got AJ, for example, and you've got Frank Warren, who's got Tyson Fury. For these two to get together in a room, as they probably never do, they just send contracts back and forth and agree terms that way. But if they could get together in a room and have an amicable discussion and try and build bridges in their relationship, and then obviously make these big fights, they'd be a lot easier. But yeah, it's all about the money and the clout, and it's always a big dick contest, isn't it? Let's be honest. Who's the main promoter? Who's the biggest promoter? Who's in charge? Who's the front runner? And there's a lot of egos in boxing. I don't want to chuck anybody in front of a bus, but egos get in the way a lot of the time. If the fighters want the fight to happen, though, the fights usually happen. So you can't just blame the promoters. The fighters have to be held accountable. But people want paying what they're worth, or they want the fair share, or they want to be a little bit greedy and say, listen, this is prize fighting, so they want to get paid the most they can. But it's a shame because at the minute, the big fights in the heavyweight division that we want to see are nowhere near to be being announced. And it's frustrating to sit back as a boxing fan and just have no new news.
If you could have one guest on your show that wasn't a fighter, who would it be and why?
One guest on my show. I should read these before you ask me, shouldn't you? Let me think. Someone political, probably. Mind you, don't go too much politics, do we? Probably someone like Russell Brand. I'm a big fan of Russell Brand. I'm actually one of his 6.4 million awakening wonders. I love the way he speaks. I love this factual politics. And he talks facts. And if you don't like what he says, then you don't like the truth. But yeah, I'd love to get him onto my show, my channel. Have a chat. I'd like to go on his channel actually, but I probably won't get a word in edgeways. So I've got more chance of getting a word in this, which is unusual for me. But yeah, Russell Brand. And politics aside, is in tune with the spiritual side of humanity. So I'm just really interested. He does a lot of meditation, and he talks about spiritual connections with a human, and then other realms. You know, there's ways to explore spirituality. Things like ayahuasca, if you're not familiar with it. I'm not going to spell it for you. You look it up. Microdosing mushrooms, different psychedelics. Joe Rogan touches on it as well, but I know Russell Brand is really kind of into that and exploring different avenues of the human being and the human mind, because the brain is a very powerful thing. And when you go down them different, I don't want to call them rabbit holes because it's all
avenues.
Different avenues, yeah. I just think it's really, really interesting. I think Russell Brand's a fascinating character, and yeah, I'm a big fan. So, Russell Brand, I'd like to get you on my show. If you're watching this, give me a call.
I think he likes football, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a West Ham fan, actually, like Mark Selson, my cuts man, my corner man. No, Tony Sims was my cuts man. But yeah, he's a West Ham fan. I bet he likes boxing as well. Most blokes like most sports. If you're not a boxing fan, I don't want to get you on my channel, actually.
After being inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, do you miss fighting, and would you genuinely be tempted to do an exhibition fight?
What, the International Boxing Hall of Fame? Is that the one you're talking about? Would I be tempted? Listen, I've talked about doing a boxing match, charity or celebrity or, I don't know, exhibition. And yes, the right opponent, definitely. But let's be honest, none of these guys, Jake Paul's, even... it was the MMA fighter, Conor McGregor, they don't want a piece of the cobra. They don't want to get caught with a right uppercut on the very lint, the chin, and be sparkoed. They don't want it. So none of them are piping up now. If you notice, Jake Paul just shut his mouth after losing to Fury, and I give him a bit of stick. He's just gone silent. So yes, I'll probably fight one of these celebrity matches or these exhibition type fights. I wouldn't take a real professional boxing match. I've got too much respect for the sport, and I'm realistic. So I think that answers the question for that and tells you why I wouldn't. I'm 46 years old nearly, although I do think I could still take on most of them. But that's maybe just my ego or my confidence. But yeah, the question was, would you fight in an exhibition? Yes, if the right fight came along and somebody grown a set of nuts, set of gonads to come and take me on, which they're not going to. And do I miss it? Of course I miss it. I miss the competition. I miss fighting towards the end of the fight. I miss knocking people out. I miss throwing punches. When you're in the ring and you're landing shots, throwing punches and you're hitting somebody in the face, it's nothing. I've got nothing against the opponent, but it's just landing shots and getting hit with shots. It's brutal, and it's kind of primitive, and it just feels great. And when you win a fight, just nothing tops it. You know what I mean? I've had a lot of experiences as a nearly 46-year-old man in life. I've got children. I've got a stunning wife who you managed to have a little look at this week. And I've explored different avenues, and without going into it too much, there's lots of different ways to have so many highs and different types of enjoyment as a human being. Boxing and winning a world title and defending the world title and having your arm raised at the end of an absolute battle is the best. It tops everything. And that's why I'm a clean liver. That's why I'm spiritual. And that's why I, to answer your question, still miss boxing, because it's very difficult to get that natural euphoria, the natural high that you get from winning and defending a world title fight in that boxing ring. And I envy the boxers that are out there now dominating, because I look at them and I remember when I was there, and I do miss it, but I'm realistic. I'm on the next chapter of my life now.
You were known for having one of the best chins in boxing. Did you do any specific training for your chin?
I don't think you can train a chin. There's some training methods you can do where you put weights on your neck and you hang over the end, and it sort of strengthens your neck up. But I don't know. I think you're going to take more of the punch impact. If your neck's solid, I never did any neck strengthening exercises at all. I used to stretch my neck a little bit, but never really tried to build my neck up. I think it's one of them. You can either take a punch on the chin and be okay from it, or you can take a punch on the chin and be rendered unconscious. It's a neurological thing where the brain rattles inside the skull, and whether your central nervous system shuts down or not, I don't know. It's probably a scientific answer that I ain't got the answer to. But anybody who can take a punch can just take a punch, and there's no hidden method. If there was a hidden method, it'd be out by now. And some people cannot take punches. Some people's legs just turn to Bambi. Mentioning no names, people just can't take punches. I think the punch resistance does go as you get a bit older, or if you're not fit enough. So, to give yourself the best chance, so this is like your recovery skills, to give yourself best chance of being able to take a punch on the chin. So if you do get flattened, I've been dropped twice in my career. I got up both times to win. And that's probably attributed to my fitness level. So, got to do the road work. You've got to put in the strength and conditioning, and you've just got to be fit and strong. Because if you're not fit and strong when you step through them ropes and you get hit on the chin, say you get hit on the chin in round 7 or 8 or even round 10 or 11 towards the end of a world title fight, if you're absolutely exhausted and you get punched in the chin and you go over, if you're not fit enough to stand up, then maybe you've got a good chin, but you're just exhausted, So to give yourself the best chance of being able to take a punch, it's fundamental, basic foundation has to be supreme elite level fitness. And that's one of the things I used to always make sure I had when I stepped through them ropes. Only on one occasion I didn't get in the ring as fit as I should have been. That was the George Groves' first fight. That was Rachel's fault for letting me enroll into a dancing show. But yeah, fitness and strength, I think, will improve your ability to take a punch. But you've either got a glass jaw or a granite jaw. And I've got a granite jaw. So that's a wrap for another week. If you've enjoyed yourself, don't forget to leave a comment. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well, please. That will be very helpful. And yeah, I've been Carl Froch, Rachel over here. And this has been Rachel Froch. She's made a guest appearance this week. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I always do every week.
Yeah. What did you touch me in?
I don't know.
Say goodbye. What was that?